Buonanotte, I think, had a pretty good debut, but he's not Cole Palmer, and here was his goal. So Tyreek George receives the ball wide, plays it into Reece James right here. So this is the thing, is this change of formation allowed Caicedo and James both to really join the attack. Well, you can play well in a match, but if you make two big mistakes, concede 2 goals, you drop 2 points. And that's exactly what happened to Chelsea this past weekend against Brentford. So welcome to the Chelsea Campfire. I'm Sebastian North. Let's take some time to break this match down tactically, because I do think it was actually pretty interesting the way Maresca set the team up. And then he made a host of changes. He made 3 substitutions at halftime, then brought on Cole Palmer, and he changed the shape from first to second half. So I want to take a look at what Maresca's plan was from the start, how he changed it at halftime, and how Chelsea almost got 3 points in a stadium that, to be fair, we don't have the greatest record. All right, so the first thing I want to take a look at here on the tactical board is the way Chelsea were set up against Brentford. Brentford played with a back 5. This was not a back 3 with wingbacks. This was a back 5 with 3 holding midfielders. I mean, these guys were screening the back line the whole time, sometimes falling into it. I'll be able to show you that in the clips. Then they played with 110 and a center forward that was shot up front who was just running like crazy. Now, as for Chelsea in possession, it turned into a back 3. That's pretty common. Jorel Hato was the left back who inverted into midfield. Buonanotte got a surprise start as the 10, and then Enzo was the 8 in his customary sort of right-sided position. You had Joao Pedro playing up front as the 9, Neto on the right, and Gittins on the left, and then a back 3 of Fofana, Tosin, and Chalobah. It's great to see Fofana back. Now, the interesting thing was that when Chelsea had the ball back here, they would swing the ball out to their center backs, and these guys would sort of carry the ball forward, and immediately everyone from Brentford would just funnel over. And when a ball would, say, go into Neto or to Enzo Fernandez, somewhere in this area, you'd actually end up having 5 Brentford players just right on the scene, right in the area. And so what you had to do was swing the ball back around, eventually get it to the other side. But when it took that long, when you have to play 3 passes to go to the other side, well, the other team, they just kind of shift across, and then you end up in this situation again. So let's get to it. You saw it on the tactical board. This is what it looks like. So you can see your back 3 right there. Here's Enzo Fernandez receiving the ball. Caicedo is a holding midfielder. Buonanotte as the 10. Hato inverted into midfield. And when the ball would go out to Neto here, here's that 5 guys you can see immediately streaming in. They would just follow anyone they could to make sure no one could pick the ball up and turn. That was basically what Brentford's plan was. Now here they give Joao Pedro a little bit more space, and so he's able to get it across to Buonanotte. He's got to get it out of his feet and turn and go the other way. And this is what Chelsea wanted to do if they could. Now, once Buonanotte plays this ball out to Gittins, he is isolated enough that this is a moment he needs to go 1v1 and take on the defender. And I mean really with some pace. We just needed to be more incisive in wide areas, and we just weren't creating enough chances by not doing that. So one thing you can see, Brentford in their shape, Chelsea in theirs, and it would basically turn into these 3 center backs, Caicedo in the middle of another 3 midfielders, kind of like an hourglass shape. And then out wide, you've got your wingers. Now, here's the thing. A ball from here over the top for Pedro Neto is something that's on. And if Tosin has the time, people need to be making runs. You can't just all stand still waiting, because Brentford's line is relatively high. You could go over the top here. And instead, Tosin is just sort of invited to walk into the play and decide, oh, well, there's too many guys here. I guess I should just pass to someone, and then we're going to have to go in retreat anyway, which is exactly what happened. We went back. Now, the fact that our center backs were able to advance this high with very minimal pressure, as I said, did mean that runs need to be made in behind. And here you can see Pedro Neto on the far side with his hand up, like, yo, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to make this run. And this is actually a fantastic ball by Chalobah. Just takes a look up, sees Pedro Neto making the run. Everything is timed to perfection. Neto is onside. It goes over everybody. Neto brings it down just at the last moment here, and it just gets away from him. But someone else needed to be making this run. As soon as this ball is going over to Neto, you need Buonanotte, Joao Pedro, Enzo Fernandez, all of them need to be going in for a knockdown so that Pedro Neto can just sort of cross it in one touch and someone can get the goal. Instead, no one goes with him. And so when he brings this down, he's all by himself. All right, now here's the Brentford goal, and actually this frightening ball right here from Chalobah. He tries to play it into Enzo Fernandez, and it just gets cut out. But we're lucky because it just bounces right to Enzo Fernandez, and we're able to attack. Now, look, it's Wesley Fofana, our right center back, driving forward, getting into an advanced position, and then Pedro Neto swinging it in. Now, the first header gets cleared away, and as it bounces out, it's Chalobah running all the way up to make the tackle. So that means Chalobah, your left-sided center back, is making a tackle 30 yards from goal. Your right center back is just on the other side. That means Tosin is by himself. And once the ball gets played into Henderson here, he has the time and he just goes ahead, plays it over the top, and Tosin is 1v1. And he gets taken to the cleaners, shot up, hits it right at him. Yes, it's a deflection. But here's the thing, when we got scored on by Fulham, and it was Josh King who put the ball through Tosin's legs to score, my complaint about that was Tosin leaves his legs way too wide open when blocking shots. You can either shoot through them, or like this, you can catch a deflection and it goes by your goalkeeper and in. So Tosin really was not covering himself in glory. I actually don't think he had a good game at all. So Maresca had already planned on bringing off Wesley Fofana after 45 minutes. Jorel Hato, I think he probably just was not convinced was doing a good job at inverting into midfield. Cucurella's on the bench, so he came on to do better at that. And I think he wanted Joao Pedro at the 10. So he decided Tyreek George, play him at center forward. Joao Pedro can drop into the 10 spot because he's been doing that very well recently. Now, James came in for Fofana, and this changed the shape a little bit. James, instead of being on the right side of the back three like Fofana was, he went straight into midfield to create a double pivot with Caicedo. We've seen this quite a few times. The Club World Cup, this little pivot made a fantastic difference. These two have a good relationship. They play off each other well, and they know how to break lines together. And so them in here making a box created a 4-on-2 against the forwards from Brentford. And so we were able to just kind of move the ball around. This guy's got no real hope of getting it. And if we go into Caicedo and he gets pressured, pop the ball out to James, and now he can stride forward, and we've beaten two players in the process, as opposed to sort of letting our right center back walk forward and they all just drop in. And that actually happened a lot, and it released James and Caicedo much more in the second half. We did not need three guys back, and we were sending two of the three forwards so often that we were left 1v1. So Chalobah and Tosin just stayed together to make sure that counterattacks were not going to happen, and frankly, it worked pretty well. So what we can see here is this setup. Chalobah with the ball, Caicedo and James creating that little box, and then Cucurella becoming a part of the play as sort of a left-sided 10 inverting into midfield. And then Cole Palmer came in for Buonanotte, and look, Buonanotte, I think, had a pretty good debut, but he's not Cole Palmer, and here was his goal. So Tyreek George receives the ball wide, plays it into Reece James right here. So this is the thing, is this change of formation allowed Caicedo and James both to really join the attack, and that meant Chalobah and Tosin were back just defending, and so they were cutting out any kind of counterattack like we gave up in the first half. And having James in this position is great because he's good at delivering the ball. Here his angle's not great, so he gives it to Enzo. Enzo whips it in. Joao Pedro wins the header, and it drops so kindly for Palmer, who tucks it home 1-1. And at this point, we were really, really pushing the button on them. They were under a ton of pressure. And then Alejandro Garnacho would come on and get his debut. And once again, here you go. You've got this pivot, James and Caicedo together in that area. And we know how important Caicedo would be in this. So as this ball comes to Palmer, he gets it wide to Garnacho. And this is what he's here for, taking players on, being able to beat them down the line, and his pass into the middle is actually very, very good. I mean, it's right on the ground, begging to be hit, but it's just behind Cucurella, just a little ahead of Palmer. Brentford knock it out. It goes to Caicedo. He sets his feet. Wham, goal. We are up 2-1, and at this point I was fist pumping like, yes, let's go, get it in, we're going to win this game. But I knew what stoppage time was going to look like. It was going to be set piece hell. Brentford were just going to go and lump everything they could forward. Now, this is on a free kick leading up to the goal, so it gets played in. We deal with it. We get it away. It goes back to half field. Lewis Potter just lofts one up. Now, this is the key moment right here. You know they've got long throws, right? Look at Reece James. As he's watching this ball come down, he completely misjudges this. And what he should be doing is heading it straight forward right into this area so that it can go to Palmer and he can receive it and get out, and we probably win the game. But instead, he misreads it. He jumps like strangely. I don't know. Maybe he thought he was under pressure. I don't know, but he heads it straight out for a throw-in. And it's like, dude, you've just given them this great opportunity. And we've defended these so well throughout the day. I mean, Chelsea did such a good job of keeping these from being too much of a problem. So you may be wondering, why did Robert Sanchez come forward so much? I think the reason he did was so that he could get more people to go towards the ball. And then right when the ball is released, he could sort of back up and be on his own, where he didn't have a player sort of bodying him. And I actually think it worked pretty well for the most part. Now, Reece James is where he is. I don't think he should move. Instead, he starts to get a little closer to the ball, and it just nods behind. And Garnacho here, you can see, he was marking, but then all of a sudden, he just ball watches for a second. It lands. Brentford tuck it home. And it's 2-2. So an unfortunate result, yes, but I like the performance from a lot of the players. Mostly, I have to say, you've got to give Maresca credit once again for making changes, slight ones, but that really open up and help the team and put more players in positions where they can affect the game and score. So keep giving him props. Either way, 2-2 draw, disappointment, but the Champions League starts this week. So thanks for stopping by. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Until next time, this is the Chelsea Campfire. I'm Sebastian North. Take it easy.